Hello and Grüß Gott and welcome to my channel. My name is Tom. I'm an American guy who's been living in Germany since about 15 years, and today's video is going to be all about something that bugs me. So it's going to be just kind of a quick hitter video, and I want to answer a question that people have been asking me since I started my channel about 6 months ago, and that is, Tom, what bugs you the most about living in Germany? So, of course, like any country, there's going to be great things, there's going to be things that aren't as great, and what bothers me the most about Germany is the rising real estate prices and the fact that they are, for most people, unattainable. And I wonder, are we in a real estate bubble? So that is what I would like to talk about today. Five points, basically. Are we in a real estate bubble? And so let's go back to the other view. The rising house prices, that's what this video is going to be all about, is basically the fact that house pricing is unattainable. And we're going to go over the different reasons and what we can do about it. The second point is inheritance and how that plays into whether or not you can build or buy a house. The third point I want to go into is how the communities are exacerbating this issue. They used to help families build by offering them an Einheimischen Modell, and they haven't been doing that recently. Instead, in the last 5 to 10 years, they are actually giving up their building lots on an auction, kind of like eBay. Finally, alternative investments and what else you can do if you can't afford a house. And number 5, an outlook on the future. So stick around and let's tackle this really interesting and very frustrating issue. Oh, and one more thing that I wanted to mention is I only have a little bit of time today. I don't really have time to edit out, so this is just going to be a very raw video. I appreciate you sticking around despite that, and despite having a few pauses here and there. Let me know what you think about this format. So what I would like to do is just give you a quick brief overview of how things were for my wife and I, and why we couldn't actually afford to build ourselves. We were both working up until 2012, and we were looking kind of moderately at the real estate market at the time, and I know we could have bought a house back then, a brand new duplex for 450,000 euros. And that seemed like a lot to me at the time. That equals about $550,000, $600,000, at least back then. That was the exchange rate. And I thought to myself, hey, Tom, you would never pay $500,000 for a house in America. So why would you do it here? So that was 2012. Then after that, we had our first child, and my wife was at home for several years. I think almost 6 years. So we ended up having my wife stay at home to raise our 2 children during that time. And if you would fast forward to 3 years into that, in 2015, the houses didn't cost $450,000 anymore. They cost quite a bit more. And a point I forgot to mention is when I talked to the bank about buying a house in 2012 that cost $450,000, they said, okay, well, you need 28% down payment on the house. That would have equaled right around 150,000 euros, and I didn't have that kind of money back then. I had just started saving about 4 or 5 years from my job. So that wouldn't have worked anyway. Then if you look at 2015, I was the only earner. I had started earning a bit more money at that point at my job, and I also had started a business at that point, so I was earning a little more, but we only had one person earning income. And so that was also a disadvantage for us. So the house prices had gone up. We really couldn't find much of anything lower than 600,000 at that time. And the banks, when I went back, they said, okay, well, we don't need as much of a down payment. At this point, the banks are starting to get a little bit more speculative. They said, but on the other hand, what we do need is for you to be able to pay the principal and the interest and not have that be more than 35% of what you earn monthly. That would have put me at around, I don't know, 13 or 1500 euros per month for the Tilgung, and that would have allowed me to only buy a house up to 500,000, and we couldn't find any in 2015 for that price. Fast forward 3 more years, and the house prices went up to about 800,000, and now my wife is working again. We have 2 incomes, 2 people earning. So we are at over $1 million for a house now. Let's just take a look at the local market and see what it looks like. Here I've done a search for Rosenheim. This is what is available right now on Immobilien Scout. The first house looks pretty nice, 1.25 million. Then we got here something for 450,000. I don't know what's wrong with that house. It's obviously small, but you don't see any house less than, let's say, 700,000. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. This one here, 750,000, that's not a bad price for today's standards, still above what most people can pay. But you see here it's an older house, probably from the 70s. It will need to be renovated. Generally, people spend about 200,000 to renovate something of that vintage. Plus, you have to pay the real estate agent his 3.5%, which is going to push this probably closer to $1 million. Okay, then you got here a nice, imposing single-family home in Rosenheim for 2.3 million. You've got this weird-looking house for 745, and this is kind of what I've been seeing for normal pricing for newer houses. A duplex will cost about 979 or 1 million, plus a 3.5% real estate, bringing the price up over $1 million. Same thing here, 1.2 million, 1.06 million. Here is a used house for 950,000 plus the real estate agent fee. So everything is right around $1 million if you want something that's a little more modern, and if you'd like something older that you can renovate, then you're probably talking 750 plus the cost of renovation. And you have to keep in mind also that if you're renovating, okay, it's still going to be an old house with old walls and with old energy standards. So you're probably going to end up spending more money over the next decades anyway on energy loss, on paying extra for utilities. Okay, well, maybe just Rosenheim is so expensive. Let's take a look in Baden-Württemberg. Oops, that's not what I wanted. This is Baden-Württemberg, Freiburg, and Breisgau. Here we got a house for 615. Here we got one for 1.3, 1.3. This is a big Mehrfamilien house. 1.6, 750. Seems like prices here are pretty expensive too. All of the houses are also bigger. You got more living space. Nevertheless, those are prices I feel like are going to be probably too expensive for most people. Well, what about if we look in the northern part of Germany? Let's have a look up here in Paderborn. Does anybody live in Paderborn or in that area? I don't know how the infrastructure is or if there's a lot of good jobs there or not, but it seems like the houses are a little bit more reasonable up there. Here you've got a house for just 500,000. Here's one for 360. Oh, this one looks pretty nice. For 410, I would take that one. It's 5 million house with a big Grundstück. It's probably in the middle of nowhere, I'm guessing, but the house looks nice. So anyway, it seems like you can probably still get good deals in some parts of Germany, but where we live, it's just about impossible to buy a house if you don't inherit. And for us to move from where we are, where we have the only relationships basically that we have, to move somewhere on the other side of Germany to own a house, that's really kind of a big decision to make, and it's not a step that we wanted to take up until now. So we are partially at fault for not having a house in Germany that we don't want to move away from the area where we have relationships, where we know people, where we're integrated in the community. So, are we in a real estate bubble? I sure don't know. It seemed like it to me because the house prices are just going up so fast. You know, and 10 years ago we were talking about 400,000. Now we're talking 1.2 million. So that's basically tripling in price in 10 years. Is it going to keep going up that steep? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. So point number 2 that I wanted to talk about is inheritance, and this is just something wanted to talk about just shortly. What I see sometimes is people building houses. I know that the houses cost 750,000 or 1 million. I think, how can that be? That person works at the kindergarten half time, or the husband is a normal mason or a carpenter. How can they afford something like that? And usually, almost always, the answer is inheritance. So oftentimes they will inherit the building lot, saving themselves about €500,000, or they will inherit just a big sum of money, maybe 200,000 or 300,000. And in Germany, you can inherit up to 400,000 tax-free from your parents. So inheritance plays a huge role in Germany, and I'm guessing in a lot of other European countries as well, as to whether or not you can afford to build or buy something. All right, point number 3, and this really irks me, this pisses me off a lot, and that is what the communities are doing to exacerbate this issue of housing that is not affordable for the middle class. So what they're doing now is they're putting up their building lots for auction, kind of like eBay, and I'll just show you an example here. So this is an example of something that we had at our community. We've had it for four times now, and each time we bid and we didn't win. So, die Veräußerung eines Baugrundstückes gegen Höchstgebot in, I don't want to say, I don't want to bring any bad vibes to our community. It's an unbebautes Baugrundstück. It's full erschlossen, 418 square meters, and with a starting price of €900 per square meter. Yes, so nach Beendigung der Bewerbungsfrist wird allen Bewerbern das vorliegende Höchstgebot mitgeteilt und die Möglichkeit gegeben, innerhalb einer vorgegebenen kurzen Frist ein weiteres Gebot abzugeben. Great. So what that means is, okay, you bid as high as you can, and then you find out what the high bid is, and then bid again. So the communities are just really raising the prices through the roof, and I've noticed also that the house prices are going up even more steeply each time that there's an auction. And I think that's a bunch of crap. It does not help the families, obviously, and I think, sure, it helps the community. They have costs that they need to cover, so I'm in a bit of a zwickmühle here. I don't know what's right. So write into the comment section below, what do you think about this? Is this justified because the community needs money, or do they get enough from income taxes? Let me know what you think about that. I think it pretty much sucks. So we are on to point number 4, alternative investments. What else can you do if you can't afford to build a house and you're thinking about retirement? What else can you invest in? Well, I think really in Germany the best thing is a house, because once it's paid off you have almost no property taxes in Germany. In addition, you have very low healthcare costs if you're not earning very much money, and it's probably just a good place to be in retirement if you own your own home. But if you don't, then I guess you can invest in stocks, but you have to be really smart to invest in the right stocks. Plus the stock market is volatile. You could invest in mutual funds. I'm going to take a look into that myself, but I don't yeah, it's not something that you can expect to gain in value. I don't think like the houses are gaining in value. And the third thing would be just to, buy a house somewhere else where you can afford it. So maybe in Italy or in Czech Republic or who knows where. That might be an option too. What do you guys think? Do you have any investing tips? Write them down into the comment section below. So now we are at point 5, and that is the future. What does the future look like for our children? If we're already going to have trouble in retirement because we don't own anything and we'll have to keep paying for our rent, which keeps increasing year after year, and we're going to most likely get from the government a retirement pension that's not going to be very high based on the prognosis right now. How does it look for us? How does it look for the children? So I'm more worried about the children, to be honest. I think if a house right now costs $1 million already, by the time our children want to buy a house, where is it going to be? 2, 3, 5 million? What do you think about that? I don't know. I wonder if the high house prices are going to drive people out of Europe, out of Germany, somewhere else to find a place that's more affordable to live. What do you think about that? Write in the comment section down below. And at that point, I'm just going to say thanks a lot for watching. And I know it's not been the most positive video, but I'm hoping to learn something. I'm sure that I will learn a thing or two by reading the comments. And I do appreciate you watching. And until next time, I say Pfiat euch and ciao.